Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. How are we all doing tonight? Tonight on the episode, I am decked out in pirate gear again, just like last night. We talked trade deadline. Tonight, I am joined by former Bucko, former Pirate, of course, and maybe you guys see him on the after the game talk. We're gonna bring him right in and get this show rolling. I'm very excited about this one. Mr. Fort is joining the show tonight, and let's go. How are you, sir?
I'm good. You just called me Mr. Fort. We talked
I did.
behind the scenes, and you were like, "Should I call you Michael, Mike, Mad Mike?" You went with Mr. Fort. That's pretty good. I didn't see that coming. I appreciate it. Yeah, I just did an event, and they called me Coach Fort. So Mr. Fort's new. Makes me feel a little old, but I'll take it.
Maybe you should stick with that one, Mr. Fort.
Mr. Fort. Yeah, yeah. That's the business side of me.
So, for everyone that doesn't know who you are, why don't you fill them in with what you're doing now? And or first, we could talk about that picture real quick. It's in the background. As
Yeah,
we
you
talked about
asked if I liked
backstage.
it, and I said, "Do you know when that was?" And you're like, "Yeah, so your first came back after getting traded." Well, I got designated. I signed with Colorado after a knee surgery that ended my season in 2013. Signed with them, felt comfortable, and then my first game back against Pittsburgh, I got a standing ovation. It was very humbling. It was incredible. And then I proceeded to hit a home run in my first at bat. I got booed around the bases, which is perfect Pittsburgh, like old school mentality. I absolutely loved it. I had a huge smile. Got to talk to some of my teammates as I rounded the bases, and it was off Jeff Locke. So made it even more special because he was a great friend of mine in the Still City. So, at the end of the day, it's just fun. This game is just a giant family, and coming home and hitting a homer my first at bat and then booing me around the bases after they just gave me a standing O is priceless.
Um, there could be nothing better than getting a standing O, smashing a home run, and then getting booed.
Yeah, I mean, tell the two stories, I guess. I mean, just absolutely Pittsburgh in a nutshell, in my opinion. I mean, they call it the city of champions for a reason, and it's because they have very high standards, but they just want you to play hard. And I feel like that's why they really embraced me. Is I played the game the right way. I played hard and left it all out on the field, no matter what, whether it was going good, bad, or ugly. And also, you always treated the fans with respect, and they would treat you with respect, even if they were hard on you. It was like a big brother thing, and I absolutely fell in love with the city. I live here now, and you were asking me a minute ago. I played Major League Baseball for parts of 7 seasons, total about 13 overall, including the minor leagues. Ventured around everywhere. Most of my time was with Pittsburgh and Colorado, played a little bit with St. Louis. And then when I decided to walk away from the game professionally, I never say I retired anymore. I don't like that term. The only time I'm going to retire is when I'm in the grave. So I walked away professionally, still love to play. We'll play a pickup backyard game. We'll play softball. I don't care if somebody's playing and they need an extra. I love playing still. So not retired, just retired professionally. Now I'm on AT&T pre and post game and the broadcast with Pittsburgh Pirates. And that's been a humbling thing for me because it's something I never thought I'd do. Had no interest in doing it. During dark time, I got the opportunity and I did it. Robbie and Spicalzi asked if I want to do it. My mom and my wonderful wife kind of pushed me along. I was terrified to talk in front of people as a kid. Not anymore because I had 2 learning disabilities. Was able to overcome these things and do something that I can share with, people that maybe have an anxiety or whatever have you, or learning disabilities, that, hey, nothing can hold you back. If you look at something and say, I'm going to go right through that with no holds bar because I believe in myself. I believe in what I can do. And then you just work your tail off.
Now, you mentioned you had like a stage fright. Now, like what we're doing right now, we don't really know who's watching, so it's a lot easier to talk and everything else than it is in like a real like bar setting or anything like that. Do you still get a little bit nervous like in those settings?
There's times I get nervous, in general. It doesn't matter if I'm in front of a camera. It doesn't matter if I'm in front of 10,000 people. It can hit me. And that's because as a kid, I got made fun of because I couldn't spell. I was dyslexic. I had an audio visual perception disorder, so I couldn't sound out words. So if I'd never seen a word, I couldn't say it. Getting into broadcast, having to memorize names and how hard that is and say the lineup and do different things and not wanting to make a mistake because sometimes you can be a perfectionist. Obviously, being a professional athlete, I'm striving for perfection. You're never going to reach it, but Yeah, it's an opportunity to kind of learn and adapt. You know, you're going to make a ton of mistakes. You make fun of yourself, you move on, but you realize like, hey, you can only do what you can do on the given day that you're given. You can't go past it. You can't go back. You don't need to go back, but you just continue to move forward and try to grow. That's all I've tried to do. I put myself in really weird situations to get over this fear, and it's helped. I have my own little process, and you know, I tell kids all the time, like, you have to embrace it, you have to face it, and if you're not willing to do that, then just back off and understand why. If you don't understand why you don't want to face it and embrace it, then you're never going to conquer it, because you have to first realize, hey, you do have an issue that you can't speak in front of people. You know, maybe you get anxiety in front of girls, whatever it is, and until you first admit that and then are willing to embrace it and look at it right in the face and just absolutely knock it down, then you're never going to get through it. And that's what I did. I just kept doing it over and over again. Fail, get back up, fail, get back up, and as long as I kept getting back up, it didn't matter.
It's kind of like the term, you fall, you get back up again.
Yeah, you just can't end it. You can't end and stay down. If you really want something, and if you really want something, you can go get it. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as you believe. Obviously, we all have limits with talent, but most things in life, you can work your tail off and become a professional at it if you're willing to put in the time and the effort, but you have to be obsessed with that.
Now, do your wife and kids push you? Is she your mentor? Kind of. They like say, "Hey, get out there and do it," or is there like someone you look to in the office or someone around the office that you look to say, "Hey, how do I overcome this? What do I do to push myself a little further into where we're going?" I mean, there's got to be some. Is there anyone you look up to? I guess.
I've never really needed a push. When I wanted something, I'm so strong-willed, I'd go after it, and I'd go after it with persistence that my wife says would knock down any resistance. It's something that I truly believe. If you're persistent, that persistence will turn into a conviction. That conviction will turn into confidence. That confidence will turn into trust, and ultimately turn into something that's very powerful, that you have the ability to do that most people won't, because you've put that time, that effort into it. So I think persistence has really been really important, in the strong will I had from a kid to get over some of the problems, because I didn't like being called dumb. I didn't like being not with the other kids and in resource or taking the extra test or whatever have you. It was always something. I was always trying to get out of it and be normal. And that was probably where most of the work came from. But yes, my wife is someone I look up to. She's really pushed me along the way to do different things. You know, I'll never forget the first time I read to a class in college. It was Read for America. And, you know, I started doing it every single week, walking across the street, reading to this class. And I messed up on words, and they just laughed with me. And the anxiety just started to fall. And it's not that I didn't know the word, is that I was literally that nervous. So I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. My wife was a communications major. She really made me trust myself. And then ultimately, when you get in front of a camera, when you get in front of somebody, as long as you are who you are, you're not trying to be someone else, it's really not that difficult. When you have a hard time is you're trying to be someone you're not on camera. I'm myself. I'm transparent. Hopefully you're going to get exact me, whether I had a terrible day, a good day, or just an in-between. I'm going to try to be the same person and give you that same energy day in, day out. Obviously, we all have bad days. We're all going to have hiccups, but that's something I can't control. And you'll probably be able to see it because I wear all that right on my face, because I try to be as transparent as possible. And I am an optimist. Some people think I'm like I hang on to the team a little too much and I'm too nice and I don't push back. And the reality of it is what good does that do? I'd rather be an optimist, high energy, exactly like I was as a player, and look for all the positives I can instead of focusing on negatives. So that's what I do. And that's how I've kind of built it. And the best advice I ever got was from Dan Potash. He said, hey, just pretend like you're at the bar having a beer with a guy and talking about baseball. And then I found some of the niches that I was good at, and I've really kind of doubled down on those. And here I am today. You like that?
Yeah, he said the same thing to me.
Yeah, isn't that good?
No, Dan said the same thing. Like in that, like he said the same thing to me. Like, you know, if you're nervous about something, pretend you're having a beer with someone and talking about it. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, don't even
I met Dan
pretend though.
probably.
Like take it for like what it is what I told Potash, because he's really high strung and he has really high standards for himself. So to be
He's
able
a
to play
great
off
dude.
him, amazing dude, and he's really, really good at TV. He understands how to write, all these different things. and he understands the exact moments when to bring, out the personality, when to pull it back. And that's not me. I'm just going to be who I am. But I've learned a lot by watching him and Rob King and different people do different things. Stan Savran was absolutely outstanding too. God rest his soul. But you learn from them, and then you try to learn the TV. I've already got the baseball, but that's never going to stop. Where I'm always growing there, trying to learn as much as I can, but also trying to learn, the TV. How do you produce? How do you direct? What's a technical director? How do the cameras angles set up? What are the lights do? All these things, because that becomes your craft, and you want to understand your craft from the inside out. Once you understand that, it's like, wow, this is completely different than I ever thought. And the respect I have for this industry is completely flip-flopped. I mean, I was always respectful to them, but I had no clue what all went into a game, what all went to a pre and post game, what all went into the interviews, shooting off site. All those things take so much work, so much editing. And I've gotten to do a little bit of all of it to learn it. And it's been an absolute blast. And I can actually help guys understand, hey, respect that guy. He's doing his job just like you're doing yours. But I also tell the media guys, hey, if you're going to ask a question, write a story, you show up, because
There's
these guys are going to tell you the truth and be honest with you, and you want that really good story, you better show up and take the heat when you write something that's tough.
I can't believe camera guy is still doing down there. I love that guy.
Yeah, it's
He's
amazing.
He has been there a long time. He was there whenever I worked down there in like 2001 to 2004.
Nice. Why'd you leave?
So I was a cleaner,
okay.
And I just didn't get called back one year. So I kind of messed up my leg I kind of messed up my leg at the Peterson Event Center, and it kind of like ended from there. I slipped on a puddle that someone didn't put a wet floor sign on, so it does happen.
Ooh, yeah, it does happen. It happened to my mom in Walmart.
And but I did make the All-Star list. So if you're ever down there and look on that wall, I am like the first one on there. Now that they put the new plaques, now that they put the new plaques up there.
Too cool. I will look.
Adam McNally, if you want to look.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely will.
But yeah, if you see Dan, ask him about the picture he has on his phone that journalists should never do.
All right, I'm kind of nervous about that.
No, it's when you see it, you're gonna be like, yeah, that's probably something you shouldn't do as a journalist. But it's all good. It's all good. I'm not gonna ruin it.
Beep. We'll see. I'm just kidding.
Believe me for it, but
I believe you. I have no reason not to.
Maybe even he'll remember me whenever he showed me. I did work. We painted his house or cleaned his deck or something, and we got to BS him for a little bit.
Oh, nice. He's a really good dude. Really, really is. I'm very fortunate to work with the team I do.
So yeah, Dan's a good dude. Anyway, so what? Like, you were a catcher, you got the lead. Is that kind of like falling into what you want to do now? Like how you're wanting to learn everything, like learn all the positions. Do you think that your catching is leading into you wanting to know everything?
Yeah, I think I'm just a savant. I love the game of baseball. I left the game of baseball on my own terms. It was a dream of mine. Obviously, I wish I was leaving the big leagues and retiring with, maybe a retirement on a big league field, blah, blah, blah. But the reality of it is that doesn't happen for many. I won the national championship in AAA. Couldn't decide if I was going to play, had this opportunity. And, I decided I need to get into something immediately. I'm too high strung, too strong-willed, and I knew I'd drive my wife insane and probably myself insane if I'm staying at home doing anything, even if it was, rebuilding an entire house. It still would be too much just to be home. So the fact that I didn't lose the love for the game, which a lot of guys do because they get that jersey pulled off of them, gave me an opportunity to come in and just enjoy the game, watch it from a different perspective, from that 10,000-foot view, and I've really enjoyed it. There's been times that have been really tough, especially in 2020, 21, when all the things were going on with COVID and the restrictions and how hard it was to even get good quality looks at certain things when we're doing, maybe it's a breakdown or whatever, not being around the players, all those things. But it taught me a ton. I wouldn't take any of it back, except some of the hardships people had to go through. So the thing is being a catcher, I've always been off the field. And what I mean by that is my mentor calls it a field facilitator. So I'm always off the field of play. So I'm not actually in play. I'm out of play. So I'm the closest to the coaching staff. So I'm the extension. So as soon as I went into media, I wanted to do the same thing. So I've been asking questions and try to learn from different organizations, whether it's their hitting coach or, their GM or a scout or who have you. Maybe it's other broadcast team. I just try to learn as much as I can. And some of the coolest stuff I've ever learned is from people that don't play, that have never played, because they have a perspective that I don't get to hear very often. Maybe it's a fan, maybe it's a janitor. It really doesn't matter. If you want to talk ball, I'll sit there and talk with you for a little while and just kind of see where it goes. But ultimately, I don't know what God has in store for me. This is just that, that part of my life where I know this is where I'm supposed to be, move to Pittsburgh, and I'm kind of trying to see what's next. I got to do some really cool stuff this summer that may open up some doors to where God wants me to go next, but I'm just listening and moving and waiting for the next thing. But this is absolutely perfect for me right now.
You are strong in your faith, right? I did see that you went to a youth camp last year. I think it was up in Johnstown.
Yeah, I just did that actually again on Friday. It's the Mill Rats.
Oh, you did?
So it's a college summer league. Yes, it's an absolute blast. I spoke before, heard some really, really cool testimonies from some of the fans that showed up. One guy actually shared his favorite Bible verse after he asked me what mine was, and it's in Thessalonians, and it pretty much is be thankful for everything. And I'm kind of summarizing that up, but he just lost his wife to cancer, and he said, I'm thankful for every minute I had with her. Instead of looking at it in a negative way, like, why did you take my wife? Why did this happen? And all those things were, very easy to do. He said, thank you for the 30 years I had. Thank you for the opportunity and all the memories I get to keep. And I can remember he was so thankful for that. And that's what we have to do, because perspective is so important in life. And a lot of times we look at the wrong type of perspective. We just see right in front of us, and that reality isn't actually what is real. If we'll get outside, take our blinders off and throw them over here, that perspective will shift. We'll see some things differently. And that's exactly what he shared. And a lot of people got touched by it. And then at the end, I get to share with the team. I stayed, probably an hour and a half after the game, got to talk to guys about the transfer portal, their faith, girls, just a little bit of everything. Just try to mentor those guys and help them the best I can. And hopefully it plants a seed that gets, watered over time and blossoms in some way that helps someone else.
Nice. So I had a question, and like I said, Jason was supposed to be here, and he was going to have some other questions. But one of my questions was, in that 19-inning game against the Braves that we somehow lost, and I thought you tagged him out. But anyway, that's here and near. But I know you did, but the referee didn't see it. The umpire didn't see it, of course.
He had to apologize, though.
I felt that was like a huge thorn in the side of that year. I just did. Like, I felt like all the momentum, because we had a lot of momentum building into that series, and it felt like everything just died at that moment. Did anyone else feel that?
I think the entire team did. I felt like a balloon got popped in the clubhouse, and the balloon being us. Because, we played the next day. We lost another tough game, and then we went to Philadelphia, lost, I think, 3 or 4 there too. And we did fall off a cliff, not a hill, a literal cliff, maybe even in the Grand Canyon, how bad we played that next, month to push ourselves out of the contention. And it stunk, but I think we learned from it, and you come back that next year and you hit it a little bit differently. We went a little bit further before we fell off that cliff, because we did again. And I think in the front office, they got us more depth. They got us some more frontline players, and in 13, rest was history. You kind of took off. But I think you learn from those experiences, and there's nothing we can do there. But yeah, we were just completely distraught and beat down after that loss. And whether it was because of that exact moment or not, it sure felt like it.
It felt like that from a fan perspective. It just felt like you said, the balloon got popped. Like, it just went. I was like, what the hell just happened? And it was like 3 a.m. here. It was in Atlanta. It felt like the 90s all over again. And it just like crushed me a little bit. I was just like, I'm a diehard fan, but even though it's a little difficult, but it's when you're hot, and then all of a sudden, like a play like that just felt like it just killed like everything, like all the momentum. And there was nothing no one could say because, like you said, I mean, he looked out at home from where I was watching anyway.
Yeah, no, I
I
mean,
mean, you
think
were
about
there.
today's game. Think about today's game. If it was the exact same situation, obviously it probably wouldn't happen because we have a runner on second base. But same situation, like there's no question, right? We have replay and two, like they wanted me to absolutely destroy Lugo. That's the advice they gave me, and I said no. Like, why would I do that? We're still in the times of the neighborhood play at second base where guys wouldn't even touch the base because they needed to get out of the way because they'll get destroyed. I mean, he could have ran me over. He could have done anything. I went in for a swipe tag just like you're supposed to, and I'm about 4 to 5 feet in front of home plate. And I think he was called safe before he even touched home plate if you go back and look at the replay. So there's so many things that happened in that moment that could never happen now. And it's wild. If you think about it, it really is wild.
Did Jim Tracy say anything about Pittsburgh whenever you were there? Whenever you said you were going to Pittsburgh, I'm just curious.
Jim Tracy, my first manager in the big leagues.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to him actually. When he was done in Colorado, he kind of disappeared. He kind of got out of the game and didn't show back up. I don't know if he went to retirement. I don't know what happened, or just wanted to be a granddad because I know he has a couple grandchildren. But yeah, he just kind of disappeared on us. So he was a good manager. I was very fortunate to have him.
That goes back to that once the jersey's off.
Yeah, some people are like that. They take it off, they never put it back on. But we saw what Bruce Bochy just did. He put it back on, and he seems very, very happy. It just depends. You miss the game, you miss the relationships, whatever it is that pulls you back. You just got to make sure it's the right situation, especially when you've been around the game for as long as those guys have. They don't want to put up with any of the BS. They want to show up and, just do ball.
Now, do you feel social media helped you like stay in contact with the people, with any of your ex-teammates easier? Like you just said, the talking every day to those players, you miss that. But like by social media, Twitter, Facebook, et cetera, even texting, even like real phone numbers now. Like, do you feel it's a little easier to say, hey, if I really want to talk to this guy, I can figure out how to, or, you have his number?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I just asked my wife.
That missing perspective?
Yeah, I would say social media has given me an avenue, especially post playing. I wasn't as good about checking it as a player. It wasn't maybe as strong of an avenue to connect with fans as it is now. So now it's more about the fans. It's more about teaching. It's more about helping kids and maybe promoting something I'm about to do, whether it's a faith night, whether it's a camp, and just kind of show people in a nutshell and use the platform that God gave me in the most positive way possible. When it comes to connecting to people, I have a way of doing it, but usually I just ask my wife. She's still involved with the MLB Wives group, and she also has some women that she's mentored along the way. So if I need anything, dudes don't answer their phone. We're bad at text messaging. Wives usually get things done. So you go to your wife, you ask, hey, have you talked to Daniel McCutcheon lately? Or his wife lately? And she'd be like, oh yeah, we just talked the other day. And then boom, I'm right back in the midst of a conversation with Daniel McCutcheon. It may take 2 weeks for us to follow through, but that's the reality of, kind of how it goes. Sometimes we're overwhelmed, but we're just a bunch of dudes trying to figure it out, and our wives kind of pull us in the right direction.
Is there anyone that like you became really good friends with that you stay in touch like on a regular basis?
Yeah, there's guys that you may leave and come back to, and it's like you never skipped a beat, like Andrew McCutcheon, really, really close friends as a Pirate and for many years afterwards. And then, he has kids. We've struggled to have children, and there's a disconnect and we don't see each other, but now we're back together and it's like we didn't skip a beat. And that's very similar to a lot of relationships that you have in the game. You have these guys that you connect with. And, I try to say I have a fab five dudes that, you go to war with, and, on a dime, if they called, you drop everything and go get them whatever they need. So yeah, you have guys that, that you get really close with. Alex Presley's another one. I'm his daughter's godparent. My best friend Todd, who played for the Indians organization, his soon to
I
be
have a picture
child's
of Alex
godparent.
Presley
So it's
on.
just like
I,
you become a giant family.
I have a picture of Alex Presley.
Do
I have
you?
a picture of Alex. He was down at the what was that? The convention
Caravan?
center.
Yeah. Yeah. Pirates Fest.
Um, yeah, me and my dad and my son are in that.
Cool. You should have them on.
I don't know how to get him.
I can handle that. I'll reach out to him for you.
All right, all right. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So we're in Boston. Were you actually going to Fenway? I don't. It doesn't say much about your Boston time. You were only there for 4 months, but were you in
Yeah, it
Worcester?
was
Were
a.
you on the club?
I was on the roster. I was on the taxi squad quite a bit, but never suited up. And taxi squad didn't show service time then, so that was something that was part of the bargaining agreement. 3-4 years down the line, I think it was the next bargaining agreement after that. That if you got put on the taxi squad, whether anyone knew or not, you still got service time. So while I was there, I got traded. Giambi took my roster spot in Colorado, got traded to Boston. I actually made the team out of camp, but I was on the taxi squad. I stayed in my hotel 3-4 days, and then they said, all right, Veritek's good. Head back. Went to Pawtucket, spent some time there. And then, a couple different times they told me, hey, you're not playing today because you're, on standby, which is being on the taxi squad. So there was no protection there. That's why there's not a lot of record, because it was kind of all over the place. And they traded me to Pittsburgh, and it was actually Ben Sherrington, the Pirates GM now, that was the first to tell me. And then Theo told me, and then Francona called me, and they all thanked me for my time and everything I did, and apologized to me for some miscommunication, which I'll never forget. The respect I had for those men for being able to do that was remarkable. That's why I always speak as highly as I can about Ben Sherrington, because in that moment, he really treated me like a human. They did something in my favor. They didn't have to do it. I was kind of third in line behind Salty and Veritek, and I was just waiting on my time. And if they stayed healthy, I was just going to sit in AAA. So when he gave me an opportunity to go to Pittsburgh and be in the big leagues, I mean, that's something you never forget and you're always grateful for. So I give Ben Sherrington. Say what? No, I give him the benefit of the doubt when it comes to how he handles players and what he's doing, because he thought of the human first with me, and there's no reason he doesn't do that with a lot of guys.
I was going to say, do you talk to Tito? I think he still lives in Western PA.
Honestly, I don't even know if he remembers calling me and telling me that. I need to tell him that story next time I have a chance. But yeah, that was really special to me, and that's the only time I ever talked to him, besides just in passing.
You didn't try and talk to him when he was here?
I didn't. I was too busy. I had a lot of things going on, and I try to give those managers as much space as possible unless I run into them or a good opportunity. Like I passed Dusty Baker's office, and he pulled me in, and we ended up talking for about 30 minutes. But I let them kind of pull me instead of the opposite. They get pulled enough, and I don't consider myself part of the media. I just consider myself an analyst and a former player. So when I walk in, I don't go in and ask questions and stuff. Like I let them kind of say, "Ooh, Mac, come here, let's talk some ball."
Okay. All right. I was just wondering, because you mentioned I knew he was the coach up there in Boston at the time, and he was just here. I thought you might have,
I wish I could have. Yeah, and I will. I promise.
I mean, they got beat up pretty bad in those first two games. At least they won the third one.
Yeah, the Pirates got beat up bad.
Was it? They got outscored 20-2?
Something like that. Yeah, it was a lot to a little.
It was bad. It was bad. Who was like the Clint Hurdle? Was he your favorite coach that you had?
He was one of my favorite leaders of men. I still am in contact with him. I think the world of him. I think what he did for me and a lot of guys is he helped us grow up, helped us see from a different perspective. I mean, he's a guy that went through a lot, found his faith later on in life, and is willing to share that. And I think that vulnerability teaches you a lot, especially when it's a big dude like Clint Hurdle with a big resounding voice that takes over a room. When a guy like that's willing to get vulnerable, it teaches you a lot of lessons. It teaches you about, real vulnerability is courage. And it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable because we don't want to, especially in today's society. We hide behind social media. We hide behind cool stuff instead of just being out there. and being who we are. And that ultimately always helps somebody if you're willing to do that and, share the story that maybe was really tough, like he was, can really change someone's life. And, learning from him and, hearing all the stories, he's got so many stories, a great storyteller. So I really enjoy keeping in touch with him and seeing what he's into. He's doing a lot of cool stuff right now. So yeah, I really respect him. I loved the opportunity to play for him and then almost work alongside him and be able to talk shop with him when we were, working with the Pirates together right before he got let go. So yeah, you learn to respect and appreciate different guys along the way, different coaches. And when you say favorite coach, my favorite coach is my high school coach, Tommy Farr. And it's because of the way he lived his life. He shined a light, and
You still talk to him?
I do. He'll be here next week in the Brave series, coming to see me and Strider, two of his players. So yeah, stuff like that's really cool to me because it's not that he did anything wild that stood out. He wasn't like my buddy. It's just the way he lived his life. He was a winner, but he wanted to win the man first, not the game. He wanted you to be a better human being in the long run. And he made a lot more better men than he did better ball players.
Okay, all right. Those are good. Those are good people.
No doubt.
Because they don't.
I got a lot of really
don't
cool
just
coaches.
care about winning. They just don't care about winning. They actually care about you in general.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm yet to find a team where when you care about the human being that they don't win. It may take a little bit of time, but I've never seen a team that doesn't win, that isn't growing the human being and the man first or the woman. It literally goes hand in hand, because if you're building someone up and they feel good about themselves, they're gaining confidence about what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Just waking up sometimes is tough for people. The fact that they can be encouraged and have accountability and take on responsibility and ownership of different things, that'll take them a whole nother level. And that's what I've seen over and over again. The teams that do that really, really well are the teams that win. It's a byproduct of creating good men, is winning.
How did it feel to be a top 10 prospect in the Rockies organization?
I honestly never thought about it. Yeah, I was actually a worse player then than I was the year before, so it was kind of funny that's when I became the top prospect. It's always past tense if you think about it, right? That's from, I think,
what you did, what you do now.
Yeah, it's what I did instead of what I'm capable of doing. And some of those things, it really depends on who sees you. It's who's fighting for you, and where your draft was, and all these ins and outs that you can't control. So I was very fortunate to be there. Some really cool accolades along the way, and some of them came from just a coach telling me, what he thought of me, and that always meant a lot to me because I was so hard on myself. I was always beating myself up, always striving forward instead of just taking a moment, reflecting where I'm at, and understanding, hey, appreciate this moment. You're not going to get it back. I was really quick to go to the next, no matter what, even if it was, a championship or a, All-American or whatever it is. I didn't take that in and soak it up enough. And that probably would have helped me along the way, because I would have built a lot more confidence and understood, hey, I'm pretty good right now. Like, take this in, understand how good you are, and then move forward with that, maybe belief you just gained from understanding this moment. And then you go to the next one, you're like, you have something to kind of fall back on. It's like, hey, I need to remember this so I can, maybe overcome some tough things that are bound to happen in life and in the game.
So you say brushing things off, and if I don't ask this one question from one of my guys that came on my show originally, I told him I would ask him if I felt comfortable asking it, but he wanted to know about the pass ball.
The what?
How everyone scored. Was that I said it was because of the bricks, and that's the way the ball bounced.
Oh, you're talking about in Colorado?
Yeah, in Coors Field.
Against Milwaukee? Yeah. Okay, so
yeah.
I told you I'm really transparent. You're not going to upset me. So we got crossed up. I was probably playing with a mild concussion. I never got pulled from a concussion. I did have a really bad concussion in the Dominican and flew back, but that's a long story. I'll tell you that in a minute. So I get crossed up. I call a breaking ball, and Friedrich throws a fastball. It's at the top of the zone, and I whip my head straight up to try to catch it. It gets by me, and I gave myself whiplash. So I go to get it. I slide. I throw the ball. Friedrich's kind of distraught. He misses the ball. So I get not only a pass ball, wild pitch, whatever they called it. I think it was a wild pitch. And then I get an error after that and 3-run score because, I can't really even see straight after the fact. I'm there at home plate, and everybody thought, like, if you knew me, you knew something was going on, but they thought I was being lazy or I was upset and I wasn't able to take the throw. I just was seeing stars. And in the paper and when they interviewed me, I didn't say any of that. All I said was, it was my fault. I messed up. I'll do better. And I really need to apologize to Friedrich. And ultimately, it wasn't my fault. There's nothing really I could have done. And it was just a circumstance of, that moment, because it was a cross up. I threw the ball that almost hit him in the head, and everything was distraught after that. And Milwaukee had a really good team and really fast, and they took advantage of it. And that's what good teams do. So yeah, I don't mind any of that, because I hope someone can learn from that. Like, it is what it is. But what I was not going to do is throw somebody under the bus. Hey, we got crossed up. It's my fault. I always try to take ownership because I didn't want to put it on the guy on the mound, because I was supposed to be the leader. I was supposed to be the one that should take the bullets whenever possible. Like, there's also a time, I believe it was that year too, someone stole home on me and Rex brothers. Rex kept turning his back, and I kept tossing it back, and they timed it out. Rex took 2 steps towards the mound and turned around and fired it and threw the backstop, and he was safe. Once again, I took blame. I took blame every chance I could, because that's what a teammate does. That's what the catcher does. That's what you're supposed to do. And, those guys came back, bounced back faster. Whether it hurt me or not, who cares?
You figure teams are going to start catching on to that, because didn't Acuna just do that the other day?
Yeah, a lot of yeah. I mean, guys get
it happens more than we think, don't it?
It does. It does. Back then, it didn't as much, maybe, but it's you look at the game. The game will tell you when you have an opening, and it's the willingness to do it and the confidence to be willing to fail. Most guys don't want to fail. They don't want to mess up, especially in the big leagues. So they don't take that chance. Guys like Acuna, who have a $180 million contract, they're going to take a lot more chances. That's why it's so important to sign guys to multi-year deals, because they'll take more chances. They'll play hurt. They'll do things differently. When you're fighting for your life to stay in the big leagues and you don't know what tomorrow brings, you're probably not going to take that chance, unless someone tells you how much they believe in you and how much chance you have, and you believe them. Which I've seen that, and I've seen that really work with guys.
Another question I know he threw at me yesterday, with the trade deadline, why is it so different to trade a catcher going to a new team versus a pitcher going to a new team? Because
so why is it so different?
Let me finish and reiterate so you understand. We were talking about like they were saying catchers have to go in and learn the whole system and learn the pitchers. But wouldn't they – I understand that, they might not get that day. But wouldn't they get in there and be able to catch with – wouldn't they be able to do many sessions with each pitcher to get a feel for them?
Yeah, I think this sometimes is overblown. It's the willingness of the work you're going to put in. So – like, I'll use Hedges as an example. He's going to Texas. There's no surprise in who he's going to catch. Say what?
Like,
with their starting guy. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Janine Heem or something.
Yeah. So, he goes there, and on the way on his flight, right? He can pull up all the film. They can send him the scouting reports on all the pitchers. He can understand what they throw. There's a lot of guys he's faced. He can talk to some of the staff, figure out who he's going to catch, spend maybe a little bit of time with them before he even does it. They get a scouting report. They meet right before the game. I got traded 5 times in 1 year, caught 6 different staffs. And the reality of it is you don't have a choice. You got to adapt, but you're calling their game. And I always say you call to the personality, not the philosophy, and you always win. Because if you understand who that human being is, and, whether you're catching for the first time, you can see some mannerisms. You see body language. You can start to kind of feel what they like, what they don't like, and you adapt to them. Sometimes that's very difficult, but a lot of times if you'll just submit and you don't know it all, even if you know the right pitch or whatever, you always give them the opportunity to say, hey, it's your ERA. I need this in the dirt. If you're going to throw it, I need it in the dirt. or, just encourage them along the way. If they need that, maybe punch them in the chest if they need that. You just got to figure that out. And those are ins and outs you learn along the way. But yeah, it's harder on the catcher, but I think if you can self-identify who you are, what you do well, and how you can enhance the person 60 feet inches away from you, you're fine. And then vice versa. If you know who you are as a pitcher, you should be able to reiterate that to the catcher, from the bullpens you throw to how you warm up to what you need. All those little things, those minute details are so important when you go to a new team, because you've got to be able to relay that to the pitching coach, the bullpen coach, the bullpen catcher, both the backup and the starter. And if you can't, they're going to start laying hands on you, especially if you start to struggle, and they're going to start to change things that maybe have been really successful for you. So I tell pro guys and, college guys, anybody I talk to or mentor, I say, hey, make sure you understand who you are, especially right now, because that person doesn't exist tomorrow. But if you go here, you need to understand, how you got to where you are today, or someone's going to start putting tabs on you and change you, because they're going to think, oh, he needs help here and here, good, bad, or ugly. That's the reality of the game, because you have so many coaches, you have so many people that are going to have your ear. If you can't identify who you are, you got problems.
Okay. Well, that was just one of our questions we were talking about.
Question.
And I got a former catcher coming on. We're going to ask him. Is there anyone in your days that you look forward to calling the game for? Like, is there a certain day you look for, or did you take every pitcher as like, hey, this is the game I'm going to call? Like, how did you remember all that stuff, and then having to know the back end too?
Yeah, there was guys I really liked to catch and guys I didn't, but I didn't treat them any differently. I knew where there was trust and when there wasn't. And sometimes that made it difficult. Like, there's a couple games that we lost. I'm behind the plate and I know the pitch that we're throwing is wrong, but I know if he executes it properly with aggression and conviction, it's right. So, I'll never forget, Axford hung a slider to Bryant. It was the wrong pitch, but he didn't believe in his breaking ball because it was Colorado. We're playing in Wrigley, though. So that breaking ball is absolutely nasty. It was the right pitch, but he didn't have the belief in it. So he threw the slider. We lost. They walked us off. But if he threw it below the zone, it would have been hit out of the park. Maybe he hits the ball hard to the shortstop or whatever. So the reality of it is right, wrong. He began to trust me. And then the next time we went to the bullpen, we started working on his breaking ball and he started throwing it again. He gained confidence back because we diligently just broke down why he wasn't able to throw it in Colorado. We figured it out. So that moment created some trust because I let him do something someone in his past probably didn't. And that's what you do. You just play that cat and mouse game, try to figure it out. But yeah, there's always guys you love to catch, guys you don't love to catch. And there's pitching coaches you love working with, pitching coaches you don't love working with because, maybe they overstep or they don't, see eye to eye with the pitcher and you're kind of in the middle. You're Dr. Phil or Oprah in the middle of an argument. And sometimes you're Jerry Springer right in the middle of our argument. That's the reality that you play, and you got to find that balance. And sometimes you're going to push back to the pitching coach. Sometimes you're going to push back to the pitcher, but that's your job.
I think we had Ray Series, right? He was still there.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. He was very, very good with the human being, and I thought he wrote it really good.
He seemed like a good guy.
He was, man. He was a competitor, and I think that's a lost art in today's game. I think the best teams have development-oriented guys and competitors, guys that just want to grab the ball and compete. Doesn't matter if their arm's about to fall off; they're going to find a way. That's who Ray was.
So, is there anyone in particular that you wanted to call game for, but you never had a chance to?
Clayton Kershaw, Zach Greinke. Guys like that had feel and stuff are guys you want to call a game for. Josh Beckett, John Lester, Kurt Schilling, Roger Clemens, stuff and feel. I'd love to catch Smoltz, Maddox, Glavine, because it's not only you're going out there with someone who's going to probably execute 90% of their pitches, maybe even 80, which is remarkable in the big leagues. I would say not even 50% of pitches are executed properly. So you're catching that elite execution, elite command, and then they have stuff. I mean, that just sounds too much fun. I'd love to catch Wainwright. I respect him with all I have. in my heart and my soul, I think the dude's an absolute saint. I think what he's done for the game, what he's done outside the game has been remarkable. So being able to catch guys like that would be cool. So there's a lot of guys I wish I could have caught, but I've gotten to catch a lot of really cool guys too. So yeah.
So like Austin Hedges now gets to go catch Matt Scherzer. That seems to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I think Max Scherzer is going to take a step forward. I really do. I think all these guys. That's how good Austin Hedges is. I do too.
I think they need it.
There's a lot of drama there.
Yeah, that was like the coach got fired again in the beginning of the year, and it was just it just seemed like a bad situation right off the bat. I mean, Verlander.
I don't know if it was a bad situation or just an uneducated situation. I think baseball learned real fast you can't buy a championship. $330+ million and $150 million tax that they're going to have to pay this year. I mean, it's $500 million that you're looking at, and they have a losing record. I mean, that's tough, but it's a hard pill to swallow. I love Cohen and what he did, what he tried to do. He did what he knew, and now he's learning, and he just completely restructured his entire minor league system. He still has really good players at the top, so it's going to be very intriguing on how quick they move into the right direction, because they still have that ability to spend money, and he obviously doesn't care about the tax threshold, any of those things. So, he may go after it anytime.
Oh, we actually got a question. Would you want to catch Shohei?
No doubt. I'd love to. I'd love to block his split in the dirt, and just see all the many faces of Shohei Ohtani. I think he wears his emotions on his face more than anybody in the league. So, yeah, I'd love to catch him.
Is he worth $700 million?
I don't think any player's worth $700 million.
I don't either, but yeah, that's what everyone keeps guessing. Like that's where it's going to be.
I could argue that he's worth $80 million a year to year, and I think he'll get $50 million with the incentives. But name 5 long-term contracts that have worked. I think you're going to look at Garrett Cole and say it worked. You're going to look at Bryce Harper and say it worked. You may look at Machado maybe and say it worked, but most of those contracts just don't play out in the club's favor. It plays out to the player's favor to a certain extent when it comes to their bank account, but they never seem to enjoy the game towards the end. And that's what I don't want to see. I want to see Bryce Harper, year 13, the same Bryce Harper I'm seeing now, even if he's older. The competitor, like Cabrera right now. We're not seeing the best version of him. But I think his value played out to probably where his contract worked out, but you have him locked up. So pay him more up front, get the best years out of him, and then go from there. So if they paid him the same amount of money for 7 years instead of 13 years, he probably got to that value at 7 years and then devalued himself after that. So I think baseball's got a lot of structuring issues they got to figure out.
What do you feel like? I feel that these managers sign these 10-year contracts so that way the CBA can't be restructured, because there's no way to split that contract up into like salary cap money, because it's so high.
I don't know if the salary cap's the problem. I think a floor is the problem. Because, why would you want to argue with baseball? It's not like football or basketball where if you had a Steve Cohen in basketball, you have 5 of the best players on the same team. Where in baseball, Ohtani and Trout can't win, then nobody can win, right? The Yankees are in last place.
That's unbelievable.
And you're looking at, but they're in last place, but have above a 500 record. So you can't really judge a book by its cover in baseball. San Diego Padres have the 3rd highest payroll. They are a small market team, and they have the 3rd highest payroll, and they're not winning. Arizona Diamondbacks have one of the bottom 5, and they're winning. Cincinnati Reds, bottom 10, and they're winning. Tampa Bay, bottom 10, they're winning. And that's what you got to look at. The Braves have.
The Rays always had that chemistry, though.
Yeah, but that's why the team aspect in baseball and the unknown in baseball is remarkable. Think about how the Pirates would be right now if JT Brubaker didn't get hurt, Velasquez didn't get hurt, O'Neal Cruz didn't get hurt. You're looking at a completely different team. And
way different.
It's not, what if Indy didn't start out slow? Like you just kind of look at these ins and outs of what ifs, but that's why baseball's so cool. You have to let it play
Is
out. You don't
Cruz
know.
close?
Yeah.
Would you bring Cruz back this year, or just let him
Yes.
come back next year?
Nope. I want him
You would
back.
rush. You would bring him back.
I wouldn't rush it, but if I can get him 110 at bats, I want to get 110 at bats. I mean, he's probably going to play winter ball too, because you want him to get those at bats so he is ready for next year. It's the same thing as Paul Skeens. You got to get him throwing because everybody wants him in the big leagues next year. Whether you want him in April, May, or June, he needs to get his feet wet, understand the ins and outs of whatever level, and that way he understands the complexity of pro ball. And then he
have you got to talk to Paul?
I just in passing when he was here, when he signed.
I wasn't sure if you're like, hey, you want to play catch? I'm in.
I maybe sometime in the off season. I think he does a lot of training with a guy in Knoxville, so maybe I can squeeze in there and catch him a couple times.
Nice. Would you want to see Keller and Paul 1 and 2 as opening days?
Yeah, I'd like Oviedo to be right in the middle of that too. I think he's underrated. I think he's growing as much as anybody on the team, and if you look at how fast he's figured it out compared to Keller, same age, you should be really excited.
I would go. I had Mark Madden. Madden actually talked about it on his show, but he said he would go Keller in day 1 because it's going to be a sellout. Opening day is always a sellout, but then you start Paul in the number spot and get 2 sellouts back to back.
Yeah, I think we start on the road next year. I would push Skeens too. Yeah, I'd push Skeens if he makes the opening day roster, which I'd be baffled if they do that. I think he'd be good enough. But if he does, I would start him the home game, the home opener, just like they did Keller, I think 2 years ago. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Okay. How hard was it to not play in 2009 the USA?
Man, you dug deep, huh? It was tough.
Well, I saw you got injured and got replaced, and I had to ask.
And the guy that replaced me, Lucas May, hit a homer to win it all, got a gold. It sucked. So, long story short, I took a foul ball off my ear. It pinched between my ear and my skull cap. They had to stitch my ear up. When they were stitching it up and numbing me, they hit a nerve, and it caused me to have a seizure. Because I got a seizure and they were worried, they threw medicine at me, diagnosed me with epilepsy, and told me to leave. So it took me a little over a week, 3 neurologists, and hours of testing to get released. I didn't have epilepsy. I did have seizures as a kid, so they were pushed to do that, but I couldn't work, I couldn't drive, I couldn't do anything, and they took away USA baseball from me. But I ended up, getting to play in the playoffs in AA, and I went to the Dominican, but I didn't get to go to Europe and win a gold medal. But I will win a gold medal at some point. I said that in a welcome dinner, because I got to go coach for Team USA, the PDP League, this year in June and July, which was really special because I got to put on the uniform. I got the hat on now, and I'm part of the family. So they accepted me back, and I will win that gold at some point and make sure that I represent the country properly, and bring back a gold, because USA Baseball is in the gold medal business, and I'm surely going to help add to that collection at some point.
Well, that's what I like to hear.
Mm-hmm.
What was more memorable? Your first time run off of more Mauler? Oh my gosh.
You're close. More Mall.
I'm a butcher too, buddy. I'm a butcher on them last names too. Or your first hit off JA.
The homer. If you go look it up, you can see why.
I was thinking your first hit because it was the day you got traded and you dressed that night.
It was the day after. So I got traded.
It said everything on the 13th on Wikipedia. Maybe they're wrong.
Yeah. So crazy enough, I got 2 hits stolen from me. And when I got traded, we beat the Mets, and then we flew to Houston right after that. So I flew in, did all of my stuff, caught Paul Mulholland, won the game. I hit a bullet to the second baseman. He dove, stole the hit away from me, and then I hit a bullet in the gap. Guys dove in the gap, still to hit away from me. So I felt like I was never going to get a hit because that's dating back to even last year when I had a month in the big leagues with the Rockies. So when I went to Houston and hit a blooper over Clint Barmas's head against J.A. Happ, I was pretty stoked. But it doesn't take any part of the cake compared to that homer with Marmol because I didn't think that was ever going to come. I finally hit a homer and it puts us in first place. I get a standing ovation and we win the game. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
I think it was just, 3 RBI or 2 RBIs too, right?
Yep. 3 RBI, 10 pitch at bat, hit a slider. Never forget it.
I imagine Greg Brown was going absolutely ballistic.
Bonkers. You got to go look it up. He went bonkers. And I feel like that's when my nickname got solidified in that moment because they walk and Brownie there and they salute Ford, and it just kind of stuck after that.
I gotta YouTube this now.
Yeah,
Greg Brown is very, very, very vocal. I love it.
Yeah, he's my guy.
That's the one thing about Pittsburgh. That's the one thing about Pittsburgh. We've always had really, really good announcers.
No doubt. It's a really, really good group, top to bottom.
Going on, like Lanny Terry, going back to him, going back to Pop Prince, going over to hockey. You had Mike Lang, even Myron Cope, Stan you talked about doing college football. Bill Hillgrove, sorry. Stan was just a stand-up guy there, knew all the sports. I think Pittsburgh in general was just spoiled with everything.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a great city, especially for sports.
So one day, are they going to let you announce a game?
I do it every now and then. It's kind of nice because I don't have to travel right now. I may get back into it next year, but yeah, I did it quite a bit in 2021 out of necessity, and then I was on the broadcast today, and I like it. I'll do it. I actually like the radio better because you get to describe and kind of bring it to life for the listener. Sometimes on the actual broadcast, the video side or the TV side, you're constantly trying to move and shake through ads, through reads, through different things, and that's a little different. I like it, but to do it all the time, I don't know. I'd have to let it play out. But yeah, I really enjoy what I'm doing now, and I love touching that part of it. So yeah, we'll see.
Well, just like you're examining how to do it all, now you're already stepping out into a whole new world by doing the broadcasting.
Yeah, just
like you talk.
You got to fiddle.
I'd probably want to experiment too. I think that'd be fun to do a broadcasting game.
Yeah,
probably radio would be better for me because you get to, like you just said, you get to explain it all. No one can see what's going on, and you get to break it down for everyone. And hopefully, you do a good job.
Yeah, I would never want to do it. Like, if you're asking the opposite side, I would never want to do what Brownie does, or Joe Block, or Rob King, or any of those guys. I'd never want to actually be the broadcaster. I'll just stay that color analyst right next to it. And that's a tough job. What they do is incredible.
That's the main guy, or are you just the side catcher?
I'll be the player.
You're the Keller guy.
Yep, that's it. I've done that quite a bit, and that's all I ever want to do. The broadcasting side, no thanks.
I love it. Thank you. I believe we have covered your career and went over a lot of good information.
No doubt.
I'm excited. Maybe one day you'll come on and talk baseball with us.
Yeah, just holler at me. I have a little bit more time over the next little bit, so just let me know. We can talk Pirates. We can talk somebody else. I do a lot of stuff outside of the Pittsburgh region, so I've had to learn other teams and other divisions and stuff. So whatever you guys want to do, I'd love to do. Jump back on, and your friend can come back on and ask those questions.
I know on Wednesdays we do like a little baseball roundtable. So if you want to come on and BS with the crew, it's more than welcome to.
Yeah, just let me know. I'd love to.
I will. I'll shoot you a text.
Sounds good.
So how do people get a hold of you?
At the Fort McKenry. Yeah, at the Fort McKenry. I have a website. You can go to thefortmchenry.com. A lot of different ways. At Fort McKenry on just about every platform. So yeah, that's the easiest way to get a hold of me, and give it some time. I usually get back within a week or so. As you know, sometimes I forget. If I forget, just be persistent, do it again, and I'll probably get back to you. And we'll
That
from
is
there.
the one thing you learn about doing this for sure.
Yeah, you
You
always follow up. Like that's one thing I would tell
right.
people all the time. Like there are people that are non-responsive that won't answer, but a lot of times like you get overwhelmed and you mean to. Like I've been wanting to speak to this 15U softball team for a while now, but I completely forgot twice. And without that persistence, you don't get reminded. Even if you put it in your schedule, if you haven't actually put it together and don't have a date and a time exactly when it's going to happen, it's not real. But that follow up, that persistence that I talked about, will always knock down the resistance. And if you're polite about it and you genuinely want to do it, most of the time guys will step outside the box and do it.
Well, I am grateful for it, obviously.
Oh,
I'm
I appreciate you
thankful
having
you
me.
came on. I
Yeah,
know
no
we've
doubt.
been talking for a little bit and we finally found time between schedules and we made it work. I
Mhm.
mean,
No doubt.
I go, look, you're a busy dude. You're a busy dude. And I'm just a guy trying to talk to you.
Yeah.
So
And I
if you
mean,
really want to talk to someone, you're gonna wait. You're gonna wait till their term happens, and all of a sudden, here we are.
exactly right.
And I thank you once again for coming on. Hang out after the show real quick, and but we're gonna sign off. I am at Sports Talking It. You can find me at the Hammer Time Pit page. You can find me at Driving to the Top Productions on YouTube and also on Twitter, Driving to the Top. And I thank everyone. And Chris, thanks for asking a couple questions, buddy. And you guys have a good night.